Ah, Herr Delta. You arrive, as the little one said you would. Come upstairs to the ticket booth, and I will offer what I know of you.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am your host the Caffeine Gamer, and this is a slice of BioShock 2, the original version and the remastered version. BioShock was something of a big deal when it originally launched in 2007. Its unique setting and look, an Art Deco bath bomb of a city in the deepest depths of the oceans, made it stick out amongst contemporary modern war shooters. The former objectivist utopia of Rapture, though in a near post-apocalyptic state of decay, managed to be colorful and imaginative while still housing a serious, sometimes frightening narrative. It was a breath of fresh air among first-person shooters at the time, and I would argue that it still holds up quite well to this day. However, if you've been at all into video games and more specifically FPSs for the past 9 years, you've no doubt already heard several people sing praise for BioShock. The series has had a reawakening from somewhat of a slumber through the recent release of the BioShock collection, which features remastered versions of the games in the series. The good news is, it should now be easier than ever to play the first 2 games in the trilogy, without the hiccups that come with having to boot up your old console or working around compatibility issues on modern operating systems. I say should, because the remasters are currently sitting at less than favorable review scores on Steam right now. The remastered versions have had rocky launches, with problems ranging from a serious lack of visual options that were in the old versions, to some people being more or less unable to run the new versions. It's hard to fault 2K for an at best lukewarm launch. Most of the people who currently own the remastered versions of the games actually got them for free, as they were simply added to your Steam library if you already owned either of the respective original versions on the platform. But for those who forked out the dough for the remasters, only to find them being only very slightly updated or barely working at all, I can definitely understand the disappointment. Whether or not these problems will be addressed soon remains to be seen. I was lucky enough to be among those who had little to no problems with running the remastered version of BioShock 2 specifically. To my surprise, I could redeem the old code from my physical copy to download the game on Steam, including the acclaimed Minerva's Den expansion. Since the sequel doesn't receive quite as much attention as the first game does, I thought I'd do myself and others a favor by devoting a bit of time to test the remaster out and see what was new and improved, and what could use a bit of work still. First off, let me start by saying that I haven't played BioShock 2 since I finished it way back when, so it was like something of a heartfelt reunion with an old friend. I had forgotten just how much I liked the second game and how much of a difference its little improvements to gameplay mechanics made. But before I diverge on a fangirling spree, let's get back to what has been improved. The remastered version features some improved textures and materials. It's hard to notice the little differences, considering how well BioShock 2 still holds up visually, but they are welcome little improvements. The remaster also has no issue recognizing Xbox One controllers connected through the wireless adapter, if you prefer playing that way. Finally, the physics-based objects now run at the same frame rate as the rest of the game. It's something that always bothered me with the original 2 BioShock games. The physics only ran at half speed, making everything affected by the physics engine seem sluggish, like a relatively detailed stop-motion animation. Sadly, that's about as long as the list of advantages over the original version goes. If you should happen to be lucky like I was and have no problem running the remaster, then this is all well and good. But for something that boasts itself a remaster of a dearly beloved game, it falls a bit short. Especially if you paid exclusively for the new version, and even more so if you were one of the unlucky ones who've had issues getting the game to even run properly. Even if you do get the remaster running, there are a few newly introduced quirks that were not in the original version. Although I have not played far into the game, I've already run into a few visual errors and places that have been seemingly excluded from the retexture treatment. Some objects were really off in scale, and a part of the terrain in the first underwater segment even had a rectangular hole in it. There were also areas that were noticeably in need of a retexture already in the original version that seemed to be forgotten or in some cases even worse off than before. Presumably much to the dismay of options lovers, a lot of the visual settings have been straight up omitted. As in, options that were previously in the game are now gone for whatever reason, and the much requested addition of an FOV slider has not been heard either. To summarize, the BioShock 2 Remaster does improve a few things here and there, but it ultimately fails to be very impressive. If you're looking to play BioShock 2, I'd recommend getting the original version on Steam, as it seems you'll still be eligible to get the remaster for free. That way you can compare and determine on your own which version you'd rather play. As for me, I'll keep playing the remaster and see if it holds any surprises later in the game. If not, I'll comfort myself by finally getting to play Minerva's Den after all these years.
Thank you. Now I must leave you, and I am sorry for this. But there are others I must help before the city drowns.